When I was younger, my dad was a contractor, a painting contractor, so little did I know that on the weekends I was actually learning all these DIY skills, being with him on the job sites, learning how to paint a wall, learning how to do a baseboard, learning how to put down flooring. Mind you, I hated going with him on the weekends because the last thing I wanted to do was, physical labor and sweat on the weekends when it was my time off, especially, from going to school during the week. But to his point, I always felt that in a way now in hindsight, 2020, like God was preparing me for this path that I'm doing right now, because little did I know back then that all these skills that I was learning, I would be actually implementing today in my current job. So fast forward, I did acting and all that. When I went to high school, when I graduated high school and I studied broadcast journalism at FIU, I was still doing the acting thing. So I was working as an entertainment reporter on small local stations here, and I knew that I always did not want to do news. I mean, there are a lot of general assignment reporter positions that sometimes if you go to the websites for the local news stations, there's a lot of positions that they post, but the entertainment reporter position is very, hard to come by, because once you have a reporter in that slot, I mean, more often than not, they're there for like 5 or 6 or even 10 years. So I knew that slot was really hard to get into. So I was still doing the acting thing to have a flexible schedule, because you get called from your agent from one day to the next for an audition. You really can't have a 9-to-5 job, and we all need to make a living. So I would work retail. So retail gives you that flexibility of many hours to work from the morning all the way into the evening until you close. So I worked at a store called Spiegel up at Sawgrass Mills Mall, if anybody was familiar with that catalog. I did a lot of shopping at that store, believe it or not, because every time I would saw things that I like, I would always hide them for me and go through that markdown period so I can get it at a really good price. And I actually became a visual merchandiser for that store because I worked in the home department, and I was responsible for decorating the vignettes and the sets and then the front windows. So little by little, I was gaining my experience there as well as a decorator. Mind you, it's at a retail store. But also I think the ability to express myself came when you make your first home purchase. When you leave your parents' house, when you leave college and you have your first home, whether it's an apartment or what have you, it's like, oh my gosh, I have all this space. What do I do with it? How do I reflect myself in my home? And how do I turn this house into a home? So that also sort of, instilled that little bug in me of creativity, and it brought me back to my childhood days of decorating my own bedroom. In conjunction with all this, of course, that's when HGTV came on board, and other big networks that were actually showing lifestyle on TV. It wasn't like a drama, it was like lifestyle content. And of course, for me, my inspiration was Trading Spaces. And it's funny that now Trading Spaces is actually back as a reboot, because that was the show that I saw, and I saw, that people were on TV, people were decorating, they were being fun, they were being themselves, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I can totally do this on TV. So I consciously made a decision to actually shift my career from entertainment reporting, from being like a TV host, into actual design content.